Hello, art people. We just watched a video and learned about an artist. Who can raise your hand and tell me who that artist was, what her name was? Okay. If you said Margaret Morrison, you are correct. And we got to look at her paintings of cupcakes and lollipops and things like that. We're going to be making some mints slash lollipop type artwork here today. You can kind of choose between the two. Maybe it's a minty lollipop. But the candy that we're making, whether it's a mint or a lollipop, is up to you. We are going to make 5 of them. So the first thing that we're going to do is write our name in the bottom right hand corner. So get your pencil out of the silver can. In the bottom right corner, that's this one down here, you're going to write your name. And your class. Okay. And now we are going to draw 5 circles. You do not need to trace anything to get these circles because they don't need to be perfect. Art is not about being perfect. It's about doing your best and having fun, but mostly just doing your best. So don't feel like you need to grab the can with the pencils and trace it. Don't feel like you need to grab anything and trace it. We're just going to draw 5 circles. They're going to be about as big as your hand, a little smaller than mine. Just going to go around like this. So about the size of a kid's hand. 1, maybe even a little bigger than that. 2. See, look, mine's not perfect. It's a little flat over here. That's okay. 3. 4. 5. Maybe about this big here. Okay. Now, the next thing, well, I'm going to just clean this one up a little bit. I'll give you a little bit longer to draw your 5 circles. This is water, seltzer water. Okay. So we should all have 5 circles by now. If you don't, you need to work quicker. Now, the next thing we're going to do is design our mints. We're going to get to color them later with watercolor, which is a type of paint. But first, we're going to draw our designs before we paint. So, first part of our design is we're going to write the word mints, which you'll understand why in a second. But we're going to first put a letter on each of these. We're going to put an M, I, N, T, and S, one on each. And you'll learn why we're really interested in that word later on in the lesson. You'll just have to trust me for now. So let's do our M first. So pick one of your circles, and you're going to very lightly draw the letter M. Good. And these will all be uppercase. Go to another one of your circles and draw an I. Go to another circle and draw or write an N. And another circle and write a T. And what is the last letter in mints? What makes the sound S? Mints. Okay. The name of this lesson is called Capitalization MINTS. So we are making mints. I said at the beginning, if you want them to be lollipops, that's fine. But mints is kind of the lesson. So maybe they're minty lollipops, I don't know. Now we can make these letters a little more exciting. We can do some letter art. So for instance, you could put dots on your letters. That's an option. You could draw a line going around your letters with corners for block letters. You can do a curvy, kind of more of a curve at the ends and go around this to make more of a bubble letter. Okay. You could just make a border for one of them. I'll give you some tutorials and you're welcome to follow along with me. but you don't have to do your lettering just like mine. So for my first one, I'm going to do block lettering. So you can follow along with me. You could do this a bubble letter. You could do dots on this letter. Anything you want to make this letter into art. Okay. So I am just going to draw around it. So I'm going to go down next to it, over, up, diagonal down, diagonal up, diagonal down, over, up all the way. I'm going to go over, down, up, and over. So I did this one a block letter. And then I am going to erase the M inside now. I've turned it into a block letter. I'm all good now with that one. That letter is art. Check. Again, if you did this a bubble letter, that's fine. Or any other type of artsy letter. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to give you another tutorial. This time I'm going to show you how to make a bubble letter. So instead of doing the straight lines, I'm actually going to do a curve on all these turns. Instead of a corner on the turns, I'm doing a curve on the turns. Okay, and then again, I'm just going to erase this in here. Once I've turned it into art, I don't need that sketch line anymore. So this one I'm going to do the dots. So I'm going to do a dot at each part where the lines come together. Just like that. It's a very simple one. This one I'm going to actually do a zigzag kind of on top of it. I just made this up. I wasn't planning on doing it, just kind of came to me. I think that's kind of cool. In fact, this might be cool. I could do the opposite down here. So now they're diamonds. So two zigzag lines put together can make diamonds. That's kind of fun. And then I think for my S, to make it into art, I'm just going to add some swirlies. Just some swirlies around it, maybe coming off of it. So now it's a swirly S. Okay. So lots of different ways to turn your letters into art. So I'll give you guys some time to finish that. While you guys finish your letter art, I'll go ahead and I'll tell you why we're learning about the word MINTS today, why we labeled with MINTS. So when we capitalize letters in our sentences, well, we can't just capitalize or uppercase every letter, right? Only certain words have the first letter as an uppercase. So we remember what to give the first letter in uppercase to by using the word MINTS. So let me explain. M helps us remember that anytime we write a month, January, February, March, April, May, any month needs to have an uppercase first letter. So January, when you write that, has to be uppercase J. Okay, you guys have probably finished doing the art letters by now, so I'm going to go to the next step. Even though there's other things here we can talk about later. So the next step is you're going to now design your mint/lollipop. And I am you get to decorate all of them. So you don't have to decorate them just like me. But for this one, I'm going to do these curve lines going all the way around. And we are going to be painting these, like I said, with a specific paint called watercolor. So you don't really want to draw really teeny tiny designs because it's a little tricky to paint inside teeny tiny shapes in pictures. You want to make your designs relatively large shapes. So that's my first one. So I'll give you guys some time to finish up your first one. While you finish drawing your first one, I'll tell you about the letter I. The letter I in MINTS helps us remember that when we write the letter I, or the word I, like I love dogs, I love art, or I'm trying to think of I in the middle of a sentence. She said I could go to the store. Okay. Anytime I by itself is a word, anytime I is by itself, it's a word. So when that happens, we uppercase it or capitalize it. So that helps us remember that. Speaking of the eye, let's go ahead and decorate our eye. I'm going to give you another tutorial for a way you can decorate your eye. You don't have to follow this instruction. I'm going to start at the side and I'm going to do a swirl because sometimes mints and lollipops have those swirls. There we go. Notice how every time I got to my letter, I just jumped over it. So yes, and go ahead and decorate that with the swirl if you would like, or you could decorate your letter I any way you want. While you do that, tell you a little bit about our letter N. N helps us remember that when somebody's name is in a sentence, N for name, we have to give that name, the first letter of that name has to be an uppercase letter. So we have to capitalize it. For instance, if you were to say, I went to Brittany's house, the B in Brittany's needs to be an uppercase B. So N helps us remember the first letter of names needs to be an uppercase letter. Okay. Now let's design our letter N. For this one, I'm actually first going to do a circle around my N. I don't want these lines to get lost in my design. And then I'm just going to do stripes like this going out. Again, don't color in, don't shade these shapes with your pencil. We're going to be doing watercolor to fill in the lines in our shapes. Let's go ahead and design our letter T. For this one, I'm going to do a circle again. Or more really an oval. It's not really a circle. It's just like a shape going around it. Sometimes I have to draw the lines a couple times to get them to look how I want it. And this is going to be more of like a curve. It's very similar to this one over here, but I'm going to do more curved lines. Like that. And the T stands for titles. So if we're talking about a movie or a book, we have to have the first letter of that movie, all the words in the movie title, all the words in the book title need to have an uppercase letter first. So if I was writing a sentence and said, I loved watching the movie The Minions, which I don't even know if that's a movie, but the T in the and the M in Minions needs to have an uppercase letter because it's a title. So T helps us remember title. And lastly, we have our S. So let's decorate our S. I'm trying to think of a way to decorate my S. I think I'm just going to do this again. But this time I will do longer curves. And I'll explain the S. The S reminds us that the start of our sentence needs to have an uppercase letter at the beginning of the word. Anytime I write a sentence, the very first letter of the very first word needs to be an uppercase letter. So if I were to write the sentence, art is my favorite specials. The word art is at the beginning. It's the start of the sentence. So the letter A of that word would be an uppercase A. So who can raise your hand and tell me, what does the M stand for? Raise your hand if you can tell me, what does the M help us to remember to uppercase the first letter of when we write? If you said months, you are correct. What does the I help us remember? Raise your hand. The word I. That would be the correct answer. What about N? Names. Yes, names is correct. Not only names of people, but names of countries, names of states, names of cities, names of hotels, names of movie theaters, names of restaurants, all names. And what does the T help us remember? Who can raise your hand and tell me? All right, if you said titles, that's correct. Titles of books and movies and such. And what does S stand for? Who can raise your hand and tell me? S stands for the start of sentences. Okay? So, there we go. That is what we are doing today. Next time, we are going to paint these with watercolor. All right? Thanks for watching.